So this is one of our ProSound Acoustic Ceiling Rafts. This is a Class A sound absorber, so it's a very, very efficient absorption panel. And it's basically on the inside is filled with a very high performing absorption core, okay? And that's the main part of the panel. We then have a frame that goes all the way around the perimeter, which helps the panel to hold its shape. And then it's covered in what we call an acoustically transparent fabric, which means you have a nice fabric that gives it a nice smart look. You've got a range of different types of weaves and colors, and that all helps with the aesthetics. But it's acoustically transparent, which means the sound goes through the fabric into the core, and the core absorbs that sound and soaks it up, a little bit like how a sponge soaks up water. Okay, if you think about it like that. So if we put enough of these around the room, the sound that's projected out will hit the panels instead of hitting the hard reflective surfaces. And when they hit the panel, the sound will just stay there inside of the panel. It doesn't bounce back into the room. All the panels are made at our UK-based manufacturing facility. So they're made right here in the UK, which gives us very fast lead times. And from you placing an order to them being manufactured and delivered to site is usually around 4 to 7 working days. So we're going to show you the first steps of the installation. Although it's worth mentioning, you can probably see behind me, we've got some scaffolding set up. And that's because we are working up at height, and it's a lot safer when you're installing big panels to be up on scaffolding where you've got a proper platform rather than getting up on a step ladder. So that's a little tip. So we've got one of our panels out. We've flipped it over so we can see the reverse side of the panel. And we're going to measure out where we're going to put our fixings. Now, the ceiling rafts come with suspension cables, and that comes in 2 parts. And we'll show you the second part when we get up the scaffolding. But the first part you need to see is this. It's a little corkscrew style fixing, okay, a little spiral hook. And what we're going to do is basically pierce it into the back of the panel, twist it into the core, and that holds itself in there. But we need to measure out where we're going to install these. So the only rule really with where you position these on the panel is that they need to be more than 100 mil, or let's say 100 mil minimum from the edge of the panel. Now you can go further in. That all kind of depends on how big a panel you've got. And of course you want them to be evenly spread, so the weight of the panel, the load is evenly spread across all the cables. But they just need to be a minimum of 100 mil from any edge. So for this panel, we've decided to go 200 mil. So all I'm going to do is start with this corner, and I'm just going to mark on 200 mil from this side, 200 mil from this side, and that gives me my point for my corkscrew. So I take my corkscrew, got a little point on the end, pierce it into that spot that we've just marked, and just twist it round. And it goes in nice and easy. There we go. Now I'm going to do our central, so we're going to do 6 fixings on this panel because it's 2 meters long. So we're going to do 1, 2, 2 in the middle, 2 on the other edge. And because they're 2 meters, the center point is obviously going to be 1 meter. So there we go. That's 1 meter in, and 200 mil from this edge. So the next part of the installation is the suspension cables. Okay, now these are very strong metal cables, and they come in 2 meter lengths. So it gives you lots of adjustment for different size ceilings. But a good idea is to trim them down to the size that you actually need in advance, so you've not got loads of excess cable everywhere. Now we're suspending our panels 250 mil below the ceiling, so we've trimmed these down to 300 mil. So we've got a bit more than we need for adjustment, but we've not got loads of excess. Okay. Now attached to the cable, we've got this little fixing on the end, which we call the bullet fixing. And this unscrews into 2 parts. One part is attached to the cable itself, And this other part is the bit that we're going to fix to the ceiling structure. Okay, so it's got a hole on the inside. You thread your screw through that and screw it up into your ceiling. Now the screws that you need depends, of course, on the type of ceiling you're screwing into. If it's timber, just use timber screws. In our case, we're going into concrete, so we're going to use plugs and appropriate screws. But this is what you're actually fixing to the ceiling itself. Once it's in place, you can screw this back on. So this will be dangling down from your ceiling. And on the other end, we have our little hook. Okay. Now this is very easily adjustable. There's a little button on the end, which when you press that, it allows you to slide the hook up and down the cable. Okay. And our little corkscrew, which we've installed in the back of our panels, should be like this. And this just clicks in nice and easy to suspend your panel. So now I'm just measuring out and marking the positions on the ceiling where we need to drill our holes for the fixings. Now I'm going to pop on my goggles. We're going to drill into the ceiling. Now we're going to pop in a plug so it holds our screw in place. Give it a little tap. I'm going to pop a screw through the bullet fixing. Screw it into our plug. Put it in suspension cable. So now we've just got to lift our panel up to connect the corkscrew of the spiral hook into the eyelet, just like this. And then use a pair of wire snippers to cut off any excess cable.